Well, after next week, you will no longer get your fake news for free. That's right, the Rockwall Hilarious Banner will now require you to pay them for the privilege of being misinformed. Well, Rockwall County, if you're ready for some straight talk, you've come to the right place. Free of charge and free of leftist propaganda. I'm Bunker Bob, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Yes, good evening. It is great to be back again with you this beautiful day. It is Friday, and so we're back. Well, the newspaper that holds a monopoly on Rockwall County is finding itself in the same place as newspapers all around the country are in, unable to make a profit. As part of a dying industry that has taken for granted its readers for the past many years, the Rockwall Herald Banner, which is better named the Rockwall Hilarious Banner, is no longer able to afford to parlay its influence on our community for free. After years of work supporting candidates and producing fake news to help those who are committed to out-of-control growth, the population of Rockwall County has hit critical mass, and it's now large enough where they can do more than survive, but actually flourish by requiring those interested in continuing to receive those empty calories of full-color nuggets that highlights local flair and personal interest stories by making you pay for that privilege. Now, after my last show, I received some emails from people who agreed with my characterization of the Banner as a wing of the local left in Rockwall County. One even described it as the New York Times of our county. Even still, they argue that they are the only source of news in our county. I suspect that there are many out there who feel the same way, but it's like saying, hey, I don't like Hitler, but he's the only chancellor we've got. I don't believe that the Banner is the best steward of news in Rockwall County. Though it holds a monopoly for print news, you say that the Banner is the only source of news is not just misguided, it's patently false and plays to the most base form of reasoning than one can imagine. Let's not forget the past actions of the Banner, which I highlighted right here on my show, notably interfering in local elections via fake news through misinformation, half-truths, and outright lies, which was reprehensibly indefensible. And that's saying nothing about the front page headline hit piece they did on me last year, which was an outright abomination, absent a scintilla of journalistic integrity. Don't forget that in last year's municipal elections, both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party held candidate forums on the same day, just blocks from one another. The Democrat candidate forum began at 9 a.m. The Republican forum began at 10:30 a.m. The Republican Party even notified candidates that they would wait to begin their forum until they finished at the Democrat forum if they wished to participate in both. Of course, many Democrats did just that. From the city of McLennan Chisholm, Lorna Kippett, William Dahl, and Trudy Wosner first participated in their Democrat candidate forum before going to the Republican candidate forum afterward. Republicans Scott Turnbull, Adrian Balcom, and David Day only participated in the Republican candidate forum, which is what most every Republican who was running in a city election, which is supposed to be bipartisan, did as well. The Democrat candidate forum saw less than 30% of the candidates who were running compared to the Republican forum, where 87% of all candidates participated. And what did the Banner report? The Banner's front page headline story reported solely on the Democrat candidate forum. The front page, right there. The front page headline hit piece story on yours truly, y'all remember that, with such outrageously false assertions that they even propagated the fantastic lie that I was being racist against this guy. He's best known as Slick Willy Doll. See, Mr. Doll is so, look at him. Mr. Doll is so pasty white that he would get lost in a snowstorm. And despite the fact that my grandfather was a full-blown Cherokee Indian, I was supposed to be a racist against him. Of course, if you watched this show, you would know that Mr. Doll is a California transplant who had lived in McLennan Chisholm for less than a year and is in the back pocket of developers who are promising the Banner more homes and more readers, despite McLennan Chisholm's silly little ordinance that limits homes to 1 home per 1.5 acre. As they were hiding the facts and bolstering Slick Willy's image, at the same time they eviscerated the conservative incumbent who he was running against, who made it a practice of frustrating big government liberals and challenging the fact that the Banner, all the facts of the Banner's misinformation. Of course, that was Adrienne Balcom, the Iron Lady. They vilified and demonized her. So before you write me an email to tell me that the Rockwall Hilarious Banner is the only place to receive news, I ask you to consider who is actually informed of the facts, citizens who read the Banner or citizens who watched this show. Subscribe now. That said, I did offer an olive branch to the new editor last year to come on my show. That's show 34. It's entitled, Will Real Journalism Be Coming to the Banner? To discuss the new direction and its future. But I didn't receive so much as an acknowledgement from the Banner. To punctuate my point, what they are choosing not to report today is almost as bad as those fake news stories that they propagated in the past. They have not highlighted the fact that you have a city council in McLennan Chisholm that they were so hot on, right? They haven't highlighted any of the facts that the last 2 city council meetings have been dismissed, canceled. That the last meeting that they held, they actually just put everything on a consent agenda, everything that would have been needed a debate and discussion and reason. That the only way they could have come to any vote was for them to have talked beforehand outside of the purview of citizens. Banner hadn't reported that, have they? Banner hadn't reported a lot of things. There is a reason print papers are a dying industry, and it's more than the influx of alternative mediums for broadcasting and receiving news. I agree with the late Andrew Breitbart, whose Breitbart News has set the standard for right-wing conservative alternative news, who argued that the appeal of Rush Limbaugh and those like him has everything to do with the press's abandonment of reporting news based on empirical evidence in exchange for propagating conjecture and innuendo based on leftist ideology. Many that I have talked with who are familiar with Breitbart News and Andrew Breitbart's writings and legacy are surprised to learn that Breitbart was a former self-described liberal who grew up in the Hollywood hills of Brentwood. He was conditioned to embrace a nihilistic philosophy that perpetuated the false notion that conservatives were small-minded racial bigots who reflected tyranny and suppressed creative alternative thought. Breitbart's conversion to conservatism began during the Clarence Thomas hearings. He watched every minute of the multiple day hearings and had hoped that Thomas's appointment would be denied. This is someone who is not a friend of conservatives at the time. However, after what he recognized as the unfounded attacks on the part of Senate Democrats based on former employee Anita Hill's baseless sexual harassment accusations, He realized the basis for opposition was patently unjust and did not reflect what he thought were liberal ideals. Andrew Breitbart was challenged to listen to Rush Limbaugh. Never once did he hear Limbaugh talk anything about ever be racially discriminatory in any way, shape, manner, or form. What he did hear was arguments based upon empirical evidence, and he realized that he really didn't agree with all of the things that were going on in Hollywood, in the press. And he considered himself a Reagan Republican with libertarian leanings, much like me. And what he realized is that the press had created Rush Limbaugh. They created Sean Hannity. His argument was that if the press were true to fact, if they were truly objective, if they presented both sides of an issue, if they really did present the whole story, then there would be no need for Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, or in today what we see, the Louder with Crowder, Steven Crowder, or Ben Shapiro, or yours truly, if the press did their job, but they don't. So alternative media is the only place where people can actually find real news today. If you want a slanted story, by all means, go to the Banner. I find it interesting when I read their argument for subscribing now. This was in last week's paper. I haven't received today's propaganda today, but here's what they say. In this, it's in the third paragraph, last sentence of the third paragraph. It says, "Our goal is to provide fair and balanced information for our readers." Fair and balanced information for our readers. Most of the people who were running for office for city elections, they never got in this paper. This fair and balanced. Do you know this hit piece on me? See, this is a headline. If you've never seen this is a headline news page. It reads, "Former MC mayor attacks candidates through YouTube series." Attacks candidates? No, I attack fake news. This is the headline. They're being objective. Do you know that they never called me for comment? They just printed this fake news where in it they said I was racist against pasty white slick Willy doll. The problem is what they're not highlighting anymore. They didn't highlight the fact that in the midst of this COVID crisis, and let's look at all of the COVID stuff that they're going on. Remember, the news is supposed to report news. Instead, what they're trying to do is they're trying to inflame the issues. Don't believe me? Let's see here. No coronavirus cases reported in county. This is the headline of the Rockwall Hilarious Banner. That is from March the 13th. Here we go. County health declared disaster due to COVID-19. That's March 20th. That's the next week. What happens on the following week? Stay-at-home order is issued on COVID-19. By the way, was any of this news to anyone? Do you not get the alerts from the county that they send out? The county sends out alerts all the time. They tell you how many cases there are right now. They do that, and you can see these for yourself. It tells you how many cases this every day. They send you the Rockwall Emergency Services. They will send you an update, and they will tell you everything you want to know about what's going on with the COVID issue. But let's keep going. That was March 27th. Now we have April 3rd. COVID-19 pandemic toll rising in area. But my favorite, still, here we go. Again, we have April 10th. County reports 15 confirmed COVID-19 cases. Here is Friday, April 17th, just a couple of weeks ago, COVID-19 cases surging in the county. Is this really news? How many of you are sick of hearing about COVID? Now, here's what they're going to argue. Well, we've got to present the news. We've got to present the news. You're a weekly. You present the news once a week. You print this on Wednesdays. This goes to press. Everything has to be in Wednesday morning, by the way. All the deadlines. It's not Friday morning, the deadline. It's Wednesday morning. Then they print it. So this is already 2 days old. You haven't reported on, going back to the whole McLennan Chisholm thing, did you know that amidst this whole COVID pandemic, this crisis in our county, where people are losing jobs, I know that there are people watching this right now that you've lost your job. You are skimping by. Do you know what the mayor of McLennan Chisholm and the city council of McLennan Chisholm have done? They've decided to hire. They hired 2 more firefighters, full-time firefighters, in a city of 2,500 people that sees less than 1 structure fire per year. And the one structure fire that we did have, which was in not Mira Vista, in I forget. Oh gosh, I'll think of it in a second. But the one structure fire that we did have in McLennan Chisholm, the house burned to the ground. But we had a full-time fire department. We were told, hey, if remember when I was mayor and I was trying to highlight the corruption going on in the little volunteer fire department, where they were where they were stealing tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer funds that the Rockwall Hilarious Banner refused to report on, even though the empirical evidence was undeniable, irrefutable, incontrovertibly true. They didn't want to talk about that. But when I was mayor, I was challenging them. I was saying, hey, this is a corrupt organization. It's led by a fire chief who has, remember Robert Jones, the fire chief, a man who had never been a full-time firefighter in his entire life. And despite the fact that he required all the volunteer firemen to be certified by the TCFP, Texas Commission on Fire Protection, the only regulatory agency in the state of Texas, despite the fact that he required all of his men to be TCFP certified, he was not. Despite all of that, this fire chief was paid $50,000 a year. Oh, it gets better, as a part-time firefighter. No experience, no qualification, $50,000 a year. Oh, and by the way, then he had his brother come in as the grant writer, guy who had never written a grant in his entire life, so that he filled in a 3-page form that went to the Texas A&M Forestry Service, where they created the form so it would be easy that anyone could do it. But by being the grant writer, his brother was paid 10% of every grant awarded. 10% of every grant awarded. We got a fire truck for $200,000. His take was $20,000 for filling in a 3-page sheet of paper. That's called corrupt. So while I was battling the fire department, the Banner was putting out propaganda stories, news stories that I didn't care about the public safety. That I wanted and you had people writing op-eds that were saying our future, that our families, their safety is in peril if we don't get rid of this mayor. We were putting I was the mayor that applied for the SAFER grant that we received, and now it's starting to be pulled back, right? So amidst the COVID crisis, right? Amidst cutbacks, massive cutbacks, the city of McLennan Chisholm that is about to lose 25 or 35% of the grant this next year. They're going to be less, 25% of that massive grant. They're hiring. They're hiring so that people can sit at a fire station and do nothing. Oh, that's right. Help those who are outside of the city of McLennan Chisholm who contribute nothing to their own fire safety, where more than half of all fire calls go. Citizens of McLennan Chisholm are footing the bill. Here's what I love. Here's the Herald Banner. This was after the election. It says, Berger, new fate manager, council sweep in McLennan Chisholm. Thank you, Rockwall Hilarious Banner. If you want to know why there was a sweep, it's because the Rockwall Hilarious Banner made sure of it. Rockwall Hilarious Banner is not a news organization. I hope that you will agree with me on that, and I hope that you will not subscribe. Tell the Banner enough. That's how you vote. You vote with your pocketbooks. It's called a free market. I believe in a free market. Those of you who like this kind of stuff, that like fake news and stuff, God bless you. God bless you. Oh, I'll still be getting this, by the way. I'll still be getting copies. Yep. I'll assure you that I'll be keeping tabs on what they're actually printing in here, so that I can highlight for you more of the of what not just what they're reporting as false, but what they're not reporting. The omissions that they're putting in. Well, that kind of leads me to next week's show. I'll be focusing on the city of McLennan Chisholm and a rogue mayor, a guy who puts a massive amount of agenda items on an agenda on what's called a consent agenda, where all the council does is say yes or no to all of these things. You want to talk about corrupt. That's McLennan Chisholm. Rockwall County, I hope that you saw last week's show regarding the appraisal district issue between conservative Mayor Jim Pruitt and liberal Republican State Representative Justin Holland. Since you're getting the Rockwall Hilarious Banner for free, still go look at an op-ed by Jerry Hoagland, the former county judge of Rockwall County. He actually has some good things to say. He sent me an advanced copy of it, and I'm very grateful that he did, because it is good. It's good stuff, and I think everyone should see it. So I hope that you will see me next week when we come back. And until then, stay safe. Have a great week. Great weekend until we see you next time. This is Bunker Bob. Thank you for being here with Straight Talk. We will see you next week.